Good evening. Welcome to the 2021 Town of Nags Head Municipal Candidate Forum, sponsored by the League of Women Voters of Dare County. We have opted for a fully virtual forum this year in the interests of the health and well-being of our candidates and volunteers. I'm Judy Lotus, coordinator for this forum. Warm thanks to the candidates and everyone in our audience for participating this evening. The League of Women Voters was founded 101 years ago by the leaders of the women's suffrage movement. Their goal was to educate newly enfranchised women who had finally won the vote after a 70-some year fight. We are proud to continue their tradition of bringing candidates and voters together in this way. Now, we're recording tonight's meeting so that more Town of Nags Head voters can see and hear their candidates before they go vote. This recording will be posted on our YouTube channel, our website, and it will also run on Current TV. Now, I am very happy to introduce the moderator for this evening, League member Tony DiBernardo.
Hello there. Good evening. I'm a member of the League of Women Voters and I live in Southern Shores. The League is a nonprofit, nonpartisan political organization. It encourages informed and active participation in all levels of government, works to increase understanding of major public policy issues, and influences public policy through education and advocacy. The League maintains a strict, nonpartisan policy. It neither endorses nor opposes any political party or candidate. The League participates in the Positive Campaign Project and has requested that each candidate tonight take the Code of Campaign Ethics pledge. League volunteers participating this evening are a technical team, Craig Merrill and Laura Singletary. Our question reviewer is Nancy Birondelli from Southern Shores. Let me tell you about the candidates with us tonight. The Town of Nags has the mayor seat and 2 commissioner seats up for election. There is 1 mayoral candidate and 3 commissioner candidates. The candidate for the mayoral race is Ben Cahoon. He's the incumbent and he's running unopposed. He will participate in tonight's opening and closing statements. The candidates for commissioner tonight are Webb Fuller, incumbent, Bob Sanders, challenger, and Michael Sears, incumbent. All candidates will have 2 minutes for an opening statement. The timekeeper will signal when the candidate has 30 seconds remaining. The timekeeper will then signal the stop sign if the candidate continues past the allotted time. Next, the opposed candidates will participate in a question and answer segment, answering the questions that voters submitted during the forum registration process. Questions may also be submitted tonight through the question and answer feature. Be sure to include your name and town for the question if you are going to submit anything remotely. League reviewers have and will review questions for clarity, to avoid duplication, and to head off any personal attacks. These questions may be addressed to one candidate or all the candidates. However, all candidates will have an opportunity to respond to any question submitted if they care to. Optional, unopposed candidates will sit out the question and answer segment unless they wish to respond to any question. Mr. Cahoon, if you do wish to participate in any of the questions, just raise your hand and we will take notice and I will include you in that. 2 minutes are allotted for responses. Again, the timer will signal the candidate when 30 seconds remain and display the stop sign if the candidate goes past the time allotted. Opportunities will not be extended to those who initially pass on a question. Finally, each candidate is entitled to a 2-minute closing statement. Before we started, we created a random order for opening statements. We will reverse that order for closing statements. The order is, at this time, we will start Ben Cahoon. will have the first 2 minutes.
Okay, thank you, everyone, and thank you to the League of Women Voters and all of you who are helping with the broadcast this evening. Appreciate your work in our community. While I greatly appreciate being unopposed this year, I should tell our voters why I believe I should remain the mayor. As beautiful and successful a community as Nags Head is, it's my job, it's our job to leave it in better shape after 4 years than the way we found it. I believe that's been the case for the last 4 years, and I'm committed to it for the next 4 years. I'm proud of what Nags Head has accomplished since I was elected. Dowdy Park was completed and has become a real Outer Banks landmark. It has a lot of well-planned activities, very highly popular. We've completed extensive multi-use paths so that now all of the residents west of US 158 can safely reach signalized crosswalks. We've implemented new municipal service districts to create a more sustainable and equitable financing plan for our beach nourishment projects. We've implemented a curbside recycling plan with a vendor who actually recycles what they collect from us. We've implemented a pay and class study to equitably compensate our workforce. And we have successfully fought against offshore oil drilling over the last 4 years. But even as mayor, I only have one vote. Our board accomplished those things. But to accomplish its goals, a board has to work well together. You'll see a board in our meetings that is focused on its goals and identifying problems, being creative. I'd like to believe that in part my character and leadership style, calm, patient, focused, and goal-driven, help contribute to that process. Thank you.
Thank you. Michael Sears.
Yeah, thank you, Tony. My name is Michael Sears. I'm Nags Head resident, of course. I live in Old Nags Head Cove. I would like to also thank all those, the League of Women Voters and all those here tonight supporting that, and anybody attending this webinar or watching in the future. I would also like to thank the mayor for giving a great recap of the last 4 years and say that without his leadership and without the team working together to get to where we are today, we may not have achieved that much. So thank you to you, Mayor, for your hard work and good leadership. Also, from that, we've also implemented some direction in how we want to go forward in continuing to create that connectivity, to continue to work on stormwater and continue to improve the communication between the citizens and the board and making everything work smoothly. It's been a pleasure to serve the last 4 years. I hope that I can again be reelected to serve the next 4 years, and I look forward to it. Thank you.
Thank you. Webb Fuller.
Hello. Again, my name is Webb Fuller. I'd like to thank the League for putting on this forum. It's a great opportunity for us to say what everybody would want to hear, I hope. Also want to thank Ben and Mike and my fellow commissioners for doing the job that we've done over the last 4 years. Ben saved me about a minute by recapping a lot of the stuff that I don't have to say now. And I do say, I think none of us are running as a team. We're all running as individuals, but I think we've got a very good operation right now. And I'm really appreciate the opportunity to run again and hopefully serve again. With that said, one thing, Mike said he's been here for a while. I grew up here in the summers as a kid. I worked in college here. Chose to move here. Luckily, was able to get a job here. But the real reason I'm running is specifically 2 reasons. The first is my love of Nags Head. I love the citizens of Nags Head. I think we're a special breed. And I just love the geography of Nags Head, the people here, the natural features, are all something that needs to be protected. And I think that this board that we have now is in line to do that. The second reason I'm running is that I have a strong belief in public service and commitment to community. And I can't overemphasize that. I've dedicated my life to public sector and particularly to Nags Head. And I'm hope that I'm able to serve the town for another 4 years and make us a better place to live. Thank you.
Thank you. Bob Sanders.
Good evening. My name is Bob Sanders, and I would like to start by thanking the League of Women Voters for putting this forum so our citizens will be informed. I'm the challenger in this race, so I'd just like to tell you a little bit about myself. I love the town of Nags Head. I've lived here for some 30 plus years. I've owned and operated a successful small business on the beach road for those 30 years, Tortugas Live. I know how to manage a budget and how to live within your means. I also know what it takes to still experience the growth that we need at the same time. I know the importance of a small business to our community and the values of a family business. I've developed great leadership skills over their years, and I think I can bring them to the board with me. I've had many opportunities to serve and work with the community of these times. I've served on both the Citizens Advisory Committee, which I chaired for a number of years, and the Beach Road Small Business Committee. So working on these committees gave me great insight to how the town of Nags Head operates and how the meetings work. And it also gave me a great opportunity to meet the staff and work with them. These events have inspired me to run for office. People in the community trust me, know me, and my accomplishments. I feel it's very important to be involved, especially if you feel like you can make a difference. I feel like I have the experience and the leadership skills that it takes for the town of Nags Head. I have a degree in geology from East Carolina University, and part of my studies involve barrier islands and the dramatic changes that can occur. I feel the future of Nags Head can benefit from my knowledge. I understand the need for open government, transparency, and to be able to listen to our community and our citizens. I think that they are our lifeline for Nags Head and that their voice should be heard. We are facing some tough decisions that will shape the future of our town, so I ask for your support so I can be the voice for you, the people of Nags Head. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sanders. Now we will have questions submitted in advance from the voters. If at any time you need me to repeat the question, please feel free to ask for me to repeat it. The first question is a league question. If you are a challenger, please describe why you are running. If you are an incumbent, please describe why you feel you should be reelected. And Mr. Fuller, you are first up.
So why should I be reelected? First of all, I think that Mike Sears, Ben Cahoon, and I were elected at the same time. We've been serving for about 4 years, and I think I probably at least would speak for all of us in that we've started a lot of initiatives. Ben mentioned a number of those, but there are a few that still remain. And I feel like that I'd like to be part of that. Some of the stormwater issues that we've had, we inherited some, I guess, issues, particularly with the way things started in 2008 with a cutback, and our staff just did not have the resources available to them, nor were we keeping up with salaries for them to do their job. And we're well on our way to getting back to where we are. I mean, it's a long task to get there. And I think that most of it's been accomplished, but I still think I have a lot to offer. And then also as it relates, we're in another beach nourishment cycle. I would like to see that through. That's one of my primary concerns. And I could go on, but I will leave it at that. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Sears.
Thank you. I think one of the main reasons I would like to be reelected is the initiatives that that we, as the former board, started. I would also like to the main one, I guess, would be South Nags Head's got a water issue that is going to take some effort to get fixed. As Mr. Fuller mentioned, the beach nourishment, I think there's other sustainable ways to do that other than to continue to push sand onto the beach and to pay for it that way. And I think we also need to protect our skyline with some talks of event sites and different things like that being built into much higher structures than what Nags Head has been come to known for. I think that needs to be protected along those lines. So I think there's a lot of things there, but I would like to say that, you step into a position like this, and I was very green when I went in, when I was first elected. And this isn't something you can see from the outside and think that it's going to be what you think it is when you get there. There's just so many other hurdles, so many things that you need to learn. And as Mr. Fuller said, and it's a situation where the staff may or may not be funded, or we may or may not have the capabilities at the time to do it. You have to continue to search for that knowledge to get that completed. And I think I'm just now, probably within the last 2 years, getting to the point that I can make a larger impact. And that's why I feel I should be reelected. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Sanders,
Yes, will you repeat the question?
certainly. If you are a challenger, please describe why you are running. If you are an incumbent, please describe why you feel you should be reelected.
Well, I'm always running because, I've loved the town of Nags Head. I'm very invested in this town. My business is here. My children live here. I've always been involved in the town. And on the Citizen Advisory Committee, I learned a lot about the town and the inner workings and how things go. And, I agree that we need to protect our natural resources. It is the base of our tourism. It's the base of a lot of businesses, and our economy relies on it. And I'd like to see us do a little bit more to protect our shorelines. I myself am in favor of beach nourishment. I think it works. I'm also in favor of living shorelines on the Sound to help keep the waters clean, keep our fishing industries going. And I just feel like, I can make a difference if I get on this board in solving some of these issues and helping the town grow and see its future move in the right path. Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is also a league question. What are your priorities for the town over the next year? Mr. Sears.
Thank you. Like I mentioned a few minutes ago, my priorities would be to continue to work on the stormwater that we have been trying to correct. It's an aging stormwater drainage system that needs to be done so that we don't have the backups that we had in Matthew. And we'd like to do that, or I'd like to do that, not so much for perception of doing something, but for actual results once it's done. Would also like to see, like mentioned, beach nourishment. I mean, that's our bread and butter. That's why folks come here. That's why we're here. I'd like to see us look for outside sourcing, maybe occupancy tax money or tourist money to help offset some of our costs and our budget with that. And also something a little more sustainable along the lines of some kind of other than just putting sand on the beach. There are other ways to keep that sand on the beach, and I'd like to continue with that. And those two things would probably be my two biggest priorities. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Sanders, what are your priorities for the town over the next year?
Well, I think the town has set up a good path with the Nags Head Focus Plan and given us a good guide to go by. And of course, I've already mentioned the beach renourishment, and I love the dune program, the sand fencing and the dune plantings that the town is working on. I think over the past 2 years, we've seen a big increase of people and tourists on the Outer Banks. And I think we need to evaluate our public safety and works and make sure that is, up to date and keeping up with the pace. We have to plan for the future while we have a chance. And stormwater management, I know they've done a lot of work on that, and they're still doing a lot of work on that, but I would like to see some more work done. I noticed some places where there hasn't been a lot of work done on stormwater management. And I don't know if it's, we need to keep the culverts cleaned and maybe figure out some kind of pumping station if that's possible. But I mean, I think there is a way that we can manage our stormwater in a more effective manner. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Fuller.
First, let me say it's a lot easier to go third than first. And as I said, my number one issue is and always has been beach nourishment. Beach nourishment is what drives our tourism and our economy. And beach nourishment is by far the number one thing. With that said, there's a new discussion talking about sustainable tourism. I think that I'm buying into that concept a little bit more. What it means to me is I don't want to have the traffic problems that I see to the north of us. I think Nags Head's lucky that we don't have those traffic issues that I see even in Kill Devil Hills, but particularly in Duck and Southern Shores. I think Nags Head's done a good job of controlling the mega mansions. I think that the impacts from those types of structures are spilling out and causing some problems with our locals as well as our guests. One of my initiatives in the future will be to control density. I see that as the next big push from what we have now going forward, whether that's in terms of height, smaller lots, more houses on each individual lot. I see the push being moving toward density, and I don't want to see that. Quickly, climate change we have to deal with. Living shorelines is an issue. Infrastructure, we've got to maintain what we have. And we've got to fund our government. We had a hard time bringing back the funds we needed to fund our working organization. We've done that, and we need to keep that as sustainable as possible. Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from Courtney Gallup. Do you feel all town employees should be required to have a full COVID vaccination? Why or why not? And Mr. Sanders, you're first up.
Wow, that's a tough question. Yeah, I guess it is easier going third than first, but I mean, I'm vaccinated. I mean, I guess it is a personal choice. I chose to get vaccinated because of where I work, and I want to help keep my employees and the people that come in my restaurant safe. And I still wear a mask a lot of times when I'm at work. I guess, you know, if you want to have a choice and you do not want to get vaccinated, then you should wear a mask while you're at work. And you should keep yourself as safe as possible with hand sanitizer and all of that. I just can't really say one way or the other. If I would require that, I think it would be a board decision. So thank you.
Okay. Mr. Fuller.
Yes.
Mr. Sears.
Tough being under pressure, right, Mr. Sanders? That was a tough one. Thank you, Ms. Gallup, for that question, because that is a tough one. You know, and I'm going to be a little bit more broad than Mr. Fuller. That, to me, I do believe in personal choice, and if there's an issue somewhere along those lines, that's your choice. But at the same time, I do respect others. I did get vaccinated in March for multiple reasons of my own choice, and I think ultimately it comes down to the personal choice. But if you care about others and you do the right thing, then you do everything you can to take care of you and others. So I would say yes in that category, if that answers the question. Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from Robert Muller. Do you support the current Todd Kraft Septic initiative, a voluntary property owners assistance program? And would you support expanding the program? Mr. Fuller, you're first this time.
Thank you, but it's almost like a setup question this time. I was actively engaged as a participant in the design of the program. I had a history going back when I was a county manager with septic issues in Currituck County, and I participated in the development of the program for the town of Nags Head. I strongly believe in it. I've also had, I think we've got a cadre of Southern Shores people sitting around here on this. And I know that Southern Shores has already approached me about talking about things to do about septic health initiatives and what they may do in the town. So it's something broader than just Nags Head. And it's very, very important that we not only do what we're capable of doing right now, but we need to move to the future. I'm not going to try to get out in front of the committee we have working right now. I know a little bit of their work and effort, but we've got a committee that is going to recommend things to the town. That'll be an expansion of the septic health initiative. And I would say from what I know, it's good news and it's good government and it's good for the people and it's good for the environment.
Mr. Sanders.
Yes, I do support the Todd Kraft initiative. I think I would continue to support it. I don't think that it is the final solution. I feel like, stormwater is a problem and there are some areas in the town where it might not work. And I believe that is what the study is addressing. And I think that the study will really help shed some light on that, and that, we really need to look to the future of this septic health and how it's working and how it's going to work going down the road. I mean, we really need to plan for the future on this because it is a very important issue facing our towns and, like Webb said, a lot of other towns in this area. So yeah, we need to look to the future on this one. Thank you.
Mr. Sears.
Yes, first of all, thank you, Mr. Mueller, for that question and your time that you are spending on that committee. I do support the Todd Kraft initiative. I do think we need to expand it. I think we need to, with not so much in Nags Head, but in some of the other areas where you do have larger homes, understand the fact that the more water we put into the ground, the more our septic health becomes an issue. So I think we need to look at it in a whole, as a county as well as in our town. Nags Head thankfully just doesn't have the smaller lots that some of these other townships do. And I think we do a good job, and I would like to see more effort put into enforcing and using that initiative for everybody in town. Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from Courtney Gallup. Nags Head's 26.4 million general budget dwarfs the spending of other beach towns in Manteo. What are your plans to control taxing and spending? And Mr. Sears, you're up on this one first.
Could repeat the first part of that question?
Nags Head, $26.4 million general budget dwarfs the spending of other beach towns and Manteo. What is your plans to control taxing and spending?
Well, first of all, thank you very much, Ms. Gallup, for that question. But I'd like to say that our spending may dwarf, but we do actually have a very large tax base that comes from. So in comparison, Nags Head uses that money very efficiently. We do in-house more services, and we offer our citizens more services than most of the rest of Dare County altogether. Our tax collector, for instance, we're the only township that collects the taxes. Dare County does it for everybody else. Our tax collection rate is higher than anyone else. We run the water department, not Dare County. We have trash pickup, not a subcontractor. We are, I guess you could say, and like the rumors will say, we're self-contained. We do it all in Nags Head. That's why Nags Head is the leader of the Outer Banks in a lot of ways. And I think we efficiently spend what little bit of tax per citizen or homeship that if you look, we are the least taxed community as well. We tax our citizens less than the rest of the towns do, even though our budget may be bigger. So I hope that helps explain a little bit, but I'm really proud of how we spend that money and what services we provide our citizens. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Fuller.
I agree with Mike. I appreciate Courtney's question. But the real thing you need to look at is the tax rate and compare Nags Head's tax rate to the other communities, and then you'll get a better picture of what's going on. The town does provide superior services. We want that. I think our citizens demand that and should do that. We had a 1 cent budget increase presented to us at our last budget presentation, which started July 1st, a 1 cent tax increase. The board adopted a 2 cent tax increase. What that meant was we think it's very important to fund government at a superior level. We do that. We want our citizens well taken care of, and our citizens are demanding what we're providing, and I think we do a good job. I don't know if I could say much more than that, but I'm very proud of our fiscal conservative nature, given the amount of what we provide. I think Francis Meekins used to say in the Coastland Times, Nags Head has real good programs, real good services, but it ain't cheap. And I take pride in that. I think we do that. We're very proud of our services, but it's not cheap. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Sanders.
Yes, thank you. And thank you for that question. I also feel that our tax rate is very low. And I feel that our services are very good. And I mean, if you take a look at our town compared to the other towns, I feel like we've done a great job with this town. We have Dowdy Park and Satterfield Landing and a bunch of other parks that the town has invested in, of course, with grants. And in my opinion, it's just superior. And you know, you're going to spend money for those services, for those really good services. I mean, our lifeguard service is tremendous. So I'm really proud of our town, and I think our budget has been very well done. And I feel our tax rate is low. I don't have a problem with this. So thank you.
Thank you. The next question is a lead question. What infrastructure issues does your town face?
Tony, could I interrupt for just a moment?
Yes.
There's a question about why the mayor is not included in the answering of the questions. If you might clarify that, I think it would help people watching at home.
Sorry.
Thank you.
The mayor is running unopposed. He gives an opening statement and a closing statement since he's unopposed. If he wishes to participate in any specific question, he could raise his hand and participate. But unopposed candidates, you normally only give an opening and closing statement. Okay. The next one is a lead question. What infrastructure issue does your town face, and how will you address these issues? Mr. Sanders, you're first.
The infrastructure issues that we face right now are, of course, a lot related to erosion and beach erosion and salt and just the weather and the geology of Nags Head. I mean, I feel like we have to work to preserve our infrastructure and work to preserve some of our older buildings. I mean, I see a lot of redevelopment, and I know that is a trend in the way things are moving. I know it doesn't make a lot of people in the town personally happy. They love the small town and quaint feel of Nags Head. And I feel like there are a lot of things we can do that will help us these issues move along with infrastructure. And Maybe that's why the tax rate's so high. But thank you. I appreciate it.
Okay, Mr. Sears.
Thank you, League, for that question. I would tell you that, we are an older town, and that's good because we've got some tradition that we're staying with, and the look is being inherited. The infrastructure problems that we have besides stormwater, we do have some old asbestos pipes out there. We have some failing roadways or some roads that have potholes in them. And we actually put into place this past year a plan that every road in town is going to be redone. The ditches will be redone. We're in the process of a program to start replacing asbestos pipes. And we've been replacing any of the old drainage systems that were not in good shape. Most of them are from the 60s. So they're undersized for today's use because in the 60s, we didn't have this many houses. We didn't have this many hardscapes. We had sand. And when it could fall straight through and you didn't have septic systems balancing out that water that was draining, it would drain. As one citizen told me, there used to be 8 and 10 foot wide ditches that ran all through the town to move the stormwater. And we don't have that anymore. So we're looking to replace those old 12-inch pipes with 24 and 36-inch pipes to get the water out of everybody's yard. We're looking to provide cleaner drinking water by replacing some of these old water lines, and we're looking to have better roadways and sidewalks for our citizens to walk on. So that's what we would do moving forward. Thank you.
Mr. Fuller, number 3.
3's a great place to be. Bob started it. Mike has finished most of it. So they're all correct. I'm going to pound on beach nourishment. Beach nourishment's our lifeblood. We've got to continue with beach nourishment. If there's anything that I do, it will be to make sure that that program is institutionalized long after I'm dead. So that's number 1. We also have added, as Bob mentioned, Dowdy's Park, but we've added a lot of other places, and we're trying to do a lot of interconnectivity for bicycles, walkers, et cetera, through walkways. That's a lot of infrastructure going in. And for me, probably one of the main things about that is trying to keep the town clean and beautiful. Aesthetics has been one of my values that I've pushed on at every board meeting. I push on staff all the time. The last thing I want to see is a styrofoam cup on the side of the road with a lawnmower headed straight to it. It's a whole lot easier to pick up a styrofoam cup than it is 100 pieces of styrofoam. And we've done a really good job of that, maintaining our infrastructure, our roadways. Nags has taken on a lot of mowing from the state of North Carolina. That's part of our infrastructure, it's part of our look. We look good, and I'm very proud of that. As far as specifics and getting into the grind, we've just approved the development of a new public works complex. That'll be going on probably for the next 3 to 5 years. We're getting ready to start. We've got bids, and I look forward to continue to help with that project that we've started during our administration right now. Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from Mead Gwynn. What is your position about affordable housing for both seasonal and lower income workers? And Mr. Fuller, you're up.
Well, thank you, Mead, for the question, but it's not good to be first. Anyway, affordable housing. Okay, first of all, there is no housing problem in Dare County. We probably have about 10 houses for every family. So we don't have a housing issue. So then you've got to focus in, what are you really asking? And to me, when you talk, affordable housing involves 2 things: having enough housing where people can live, but a second component is a living wage. And I don't think you can have a discussion about affordable housing without talking about housing and a wage. The town of Nags Head has set a goal, and this is I strongly believe in, we've set a goal that we need to take care of our workforce. And over a year and a half ago, probably 2 years ago, Mike or Ben can correct me, but we set a minimum wage for Nags Head employees of $15 an hour. And since that time, wages have gone up, and that also $15 an hour, and that's also with benefits. So that's helped. And people got to understand you can't talk about affordable housing without talking about a living wage. And we need to have that brought into the conversation. Second of all, Nags Head is doing what it can to address housing for our employees. We also agree that we will participate on a regional basis with any and every other government to talk about a regional approach to affordable housing. And we will do that. Internally, we get lifeguards here every summer. We house them every summer. And I'll let it go at that because I'm being cut off.
Thank you, Mr. Fuller. Mr. Sanders.
Repeat the question.
Sure. It's from Mead Gwynn. What is your position about affordable housing for both seasonal and lower income workers?
Great question. Thank you. Thank you, Mead. My position on affordable housing is that it's a problem. It's a problem in all of Dare County. It's a problem for all the beach towns. And I mean, I think a better term for it would be we need workforce housing. We need housing for our workers and people that are actually earning a wage in Dare County. And I mean, I get a lot of questions about it being in my restaurant from visitors. They're asking me, well, why are so many restaurants closed 1 or 2 days a week? Well, it's because we are paying a pretty good wage. We're starting out at $15 an hour and more, but we don't have people to work. We don't have dishwashers. We don't have bussers. And it's because they can't find housing. I know locals that have lived down here for 20 years that have rented houses. And now all of a sudden the market's so good, their landlords are selling the house and they're moving out and they don't have a place to live. So I feel like, you know, we need to get together with the other towns and with Dare County and form a plan, because I feel like in the future, this is really going to be a problem and that it's something that we need to address. So my position is we need to do something about workforce housing and we need to do it now. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Sears.
Thank you. Great question, Mead. Thank you very much. I'm probably going to take a different stand than anybody on this. Maybe a little combination of both Mr. Sanders and Mr. Fuller. I don't like the term affordable. I think affordability comes down to a personal choice, an issue, and then some folks make a good wage working in Mr. Sanders' restaurant, for example, and maybe they don't necessarily show that wage. I moved here several years ago, and at the end of my monthly bills, I had $250 in the bank. And I didn't go to anybody and say, there's not affordable housing. I was paying $13.50 a month to live here because I wanted to be here, not because I could get a job anywhere. So when it comes down to it, it comes down to the work effort. At this particular point, I worked 2 jobs. My wife worked 2 jobs. We stayed here. We found a place to live and we did our best that we could do. And at this particular point, I own a house. I think that opportunity is there for anybody. It comes down to a personal choice of whether they want to take that or not. I do think workforce housing and the opportunity to offer that, again, is a choice of not only Mr. Saunders. I know he's been looking for houses for his employees for a while, and he does own some houses for his employees. And I know other restaurateurs all do the same thing. So I think it's a group effort. It's a team effort in Dare County. It's not a solution for one government body to come in and provide housing for folks. Because if we did that, if you put 300 houses out there, I would be hard to say that Mr. Saunders, you'd still have a problem finding workers if it was quote unquote affordable. So I think it's a long-term plan. It's going to take a lot of trade between a lot of people to make it happen. But if people want to live here, it's affordable enough to live here. Thank you.
Okay. The next question is from Courtney Gallup. 2 town boards currently have the same citizens sitting on them and 2 boards have vacancies. What actions would you take to encourage wider, more diverse, and more representative participation on the various town boards? Mr. Sears, you're first.
Thank you, Ms. Gallup. And we do have some openings, and I know you have the experience. So if you have the time, we would appreciate your application in that. But overall, I think we do a good job with our with Roberta getting the word out through Facebook and other things, that we do want citizen input, and we do want some variety in the boards that we have, so that we can get different opinions and we're not stuck inside the same box. So not sure, I think Mr. Shelton said the openings are not being advertised. I find that sometimes as an issue too, Mr. Shelton, because I think that we get stuck in this social media world where everybody thinks everybody's on Facebook, and if you post it in one spot, you post it everywhere, and that's not necessarily the fact. So maybe we need to do a better job of it. But I think if you hit all the platforms, you get that. And between advertising, it comes down to a choice. It is a commitment by the citizen, and I would like to see more citizens involved. Thank you.
Mr. Fuller.
First of all, would you repeat the question, please?
Absolutely. 2 town boards currently have the same citizens sitting on them, and 2 boards have vacancies. What actions would you take to encourage wider, more diverse, and more representative participation on the various town boards?
My first part, and I apologize, but I do not understand the first part of the question. So I can't speak to that because I don't understand the question. The second part is we probably can do a better job of civic engagement. I'm not sure exactly the methods for that. On our boards, we advertise widely. We get very few applications. The applications we get, mainly just about anybody that applies for our boards, and I'm assuming we're talking about planning board or board of adjustments or standing boards. I'm not sure we're talking about a board that's looking at stormwater or whatever, but those boards, when we get an application, they're vetted, they're reviewed by the Board of Commissioners, and we try to create a diversity. In our situation, it's mainly east of the beach road, between the highways, west of the beach road, northern part of Nags Head, southern Nags Head, age, and gender. We have very little diversity, actually, unless we look at it from a geographic standpoint, but we do that when we're looking at appointments to boards. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Sanders.
Yes, it's a good question. I mean, it has merit, and I feel like maybe the board, maybe there's one person sitting on the same board, and I'm with Mr. Fuller. I guess she's talking like the Board of Adjustments and the planning board and stuff, but I guess that's really up to partly the town to get the word out and partly the citizens. I mean, when I was just starting out in the business and had 2 young kids, my father-in-law, David Oaksmith, who was on the planning board and chairman for a long time, and also on the Board of Education and chairman of that for a long time, urged me to put in for a position on the Citizens Advisory Committee. And I really didn't know anything about it, to be honest. And it was probably one of the best experiences of my life. I mean, I met a lot of good people. I got to know the people in my town. I got to be friends with the people in my town. And I had a good working relationship with them from then on. And being a business owner, I think, that really helped me in growing my business and knowing what I had to do to properly grow my business within the town with the ordinances and everything. So I feel like maybe, it is part of the town's responsibility, but I didn't realize that there was a big need for that. So I feel like, maybe that responsibility is on all of us sitting here listening to this Zoom meeting tonight as well. So good question. And we do need a lot more citizen involvement in our town. Thank you.
The next question is a lead question. Excuse me. Businesses along the Outer Banks have faced staffing issues over the last several months. As a member of your town's commission, how can this issue be helped? And Mr. Sanders, you're first.
Well, we've faced a lot of issues lately. I mean, we thought last year was going to be the hard year and that this year was going to be the easy year. And we found out a lot different. It's been quite a roller coaster ride. We've been the busiest we've ever been. We've had the fewest amount of staff that we've ever had. And I think a lot of that comes down to, once again, workforce housing. Just, having places to live for staff, for businesses, for small businesses, and for restaurants and stuff. And I just feel, and also it's compounded by COVID once again, that we had no J1 visa, or very few J1 visa students that were allowed into the country this year. So that even compounded our problem more, because in the fall, after all our summer help leaves, we usually pick up a lot of J1 visa students that are looking to work 2 jobs. And I mean, most businesses have housing for them. So I think a lot of it comes down to, once again, housing. And we need to look at ways to have some workforce housing and work with the other towns in the other counties, so that, and work with the other towns in Dare County to alleviate this problem. Thank you.
Mr. Sears.
Can you repeat the question from full, please, Tony?
Absolutely. Businesses along the Outer Banks have faced staffing issues over the last several months. As a member of town's commission, how can this issue be helped?
From the town's position, I don't know that we can help the individual restaurateur into providing them housing. We can make suggestions. One thing I personally did this past year before the season started was reached out to a few restaurateurs that had employee shortages last year, asked them what their needs were. I reached out to a president of community college in Virginia, and I asked him, could you, with your, they have food industry services or culinary schools at some of these community colleges. I asked him if we could put together some kind of program, could you send your students down here? And he was all for that. The communication kind of broke down because it took too long. And by the time that we got into it heavy, the season was already started, and the restaurateurs I was speaking to were too busy to continue the talks with the president of community college. But besides using the government, maybe some of the people that we know or can have access to, I don't know how we're going to fix the problem without a group effort. Again, I don't know. I mean, if, like Mr. Saunders, he has housings for those people. Most of the restaurateurs have housing for those people that are part-time. Other than that, I don't know what we can do. Thank you.
Mr. Fuller.
Thank you. It's one of those questions that I really don't think it's a government question, but I'll try to do my best. I'm basically a capitalist at heart. That doesn't mean it means government can't fix everything. And I'm not sure that government has tried to fix anything except for the fact that we also have workers, and we have seasonal workers, and we've done what we need to do in terms of finding housing, increasing salaries to pay for the employees that we have. As Bob mentioned, the J1 program has been very important to us, And that did hurt us. And I think if we could do anything, it'd be to continue to work with our federal government to make sure that the J1 program stays in place. Just speaking very broadly, my wife's company that she's involved in, they clean over 1,100 houses every week. They have over 280 employed housekeepers, and they deal with 25 different vendors. She's in the private sector. She's got a job to do, and she gets it done. And I think a lot of this falls on the private sector to make sure that that's done. Sorry, but I think government needs to take care of itself and do the same thing the private sector needs to do. Thank you.
Thank you. And Nancy Mirandelli, has any questions come in during the forum?
Yes, I have three. The
Okay.
first is from Bob Mueller, and it says, do you support increasing development density in any zoning district or with any use? If so, what district and what use?
Mr. Fuller, you're up first.
It sounds like a setup question to me again, since I mentioned density earlier. I am not a proponent of increasing densities in any zoning district. Then you have to get into the whole definition of what is density. To me, density is smaller lot sizes. Density is reducing setbacks to allow more development on a lot. Density is putting more houses on a lot than is already required. Density, as Mr. Sears alluded to earlier, is talking about increasing height limits so you can put more on a lot without encroaching on the setbacks. I think one of the things that's made Nags Head great is the fact that our densities are what they are, and I support what we have. And going forward, I'd like to keep exactly what we have in place. I'm not a big proponent of increasing densities. I have mentioned before, I'm more than willing to look at some sort of, but it's between the beach road and the bypass where some housing could be used in like a duplex form. So I'm contradicting myself a little bit, but there's some housing that already exists that's there, that's being used that way. And I'm actually okay with that, but I can't see increasing densities for the sake of just bringing more people or more housing. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Sanders.
I feel like Nags Head has worked very hard over the years to keep density at a minimum. And I am very proud of that fact. And that had a lot to do with me making Nags Head my home and falling in love with it in the first place. Proud of the fact that there aren't a lot of, referring to the height, a lot of large hotels on the beach or on the beach road that block out the sun when the sun is setting. So I think it is a little bit of a setup question, as Mr. Fuller said, because how do you gain workforce housing if you don't have increased density? That's where I think you have to look for maybe other areas in Dare County to incorporate workforce housing, because I do not support increased density in Nags Head at all. Thank you.
Mr. Sears.
I agree with both gentlemen. It is a setup question because you got, as Webb said, the definitions of that. You've got smaller lots, more coverage. You've got that all in place, but if you designate enough free space around it, then overall it's not density. So I think with some zoning changes, you could possibly do some townhouses that would help out with quote unquote affordable properties because you could cover more bedrooms on larger lots. Like our townhouse ordinance, you got to have 21,000 square foot lots. Well, there's not that many of them in Nags Head. So in order to do that, our ordinance would all have to change to make that happen. And I don't know that even if we change the ordinance, Nags Head has the availability of the property to do high density development without a sewer system, which I don't think that'll ever happen either. Thank you.
Thank you. Nancy?
Okay, the second question is from Carol Hoffman, and it is, do you have any plans for for Nags Head community events like they have in Kill Devil Hills and Duck?
Mr. Sanders?
I'd love to see more community events in Nags Head. And I think that Dowdy Park is one place that has offered us a site for that. I mean, I love the farmer's market there during the summer. I love the concerts that they had. And I'm not sure why they're not doing movie night anymore, but I think all these types of community events helps to bring our citizens together and helps us to get to know other people in our community. It gets something for our kids to do, which we seem to be falling a little short, with all the redevelopment on the Outer Banks. We seem to be falling a little short in kids' activities. So I would love to see a lot of these things take place. I like the carnival that they used to have at the event site. I think that was very good. They used to do a few movie nights down there as well, too. I'm not sure why those stopped. I'm sure that Mr. Sears or Mr. Fuller could elaborate on that, but I think that it's a great idea. I love community events. And like I said, I think it helps bring our town together, our citizens together, and it brings other people from other towns, and it gets to show our town off and how beautiful it is and what we can do if we work together. Thank you.
Mr. Fuller?
I think we have community events. I think Mr. Sanders is exactly right. Dowdy's Park has really taken off as a site for community events. One of the issues with Nags Head, if I would say it correctly, is that we're very long and skinny, and a lot of our residents, have to travel a little bit to do things. If we had 3 schools sitting all at one place like Kill Devil Hills is, you might see a lot more community events. There's also the rec park at Dare County Rec Park in Kill Devil Hills where you see a lot of events. I'm not lacking for having what I consider small community activities. We're very neighborhood oriented, and I think we see people having events in their neighborhoods. We get together, we socialize. I'm not sure that Nags Head had seen it as an issue that we need to have more community events than we do. We have the biggest recreational area you could possibly have in 11 miles of oceanfront. We've got a committee that's working on the estuarine shoreline that's looking at protecting a lot of our natural shoreline, but also developing some shoreline for activities. So I think we're doing it at the level we need to be doing it. Thank you.
Mr. Sears?
Yes, I too am in favor of community events. And just to be sure to know, Paige has done a great job with Dowdy Park and all the events that she scheduled and helped put together. They are doing the Addams Family this Friday night, though, if anybody wants to show up at their Dowdy Park movie night. I think we did have the circus or the carnival this year down at, but we didn't host it. That's the Tourism Bureau's hosting that on their site. So that's not us, but I agree with both gentlemen. I'm all for community events, and I like the small neighborhood events as well. Even if we did neighborhood yard sales in the fall, that would be awesome to have different yard sales throughout the community. So I'm for that. Anybody wants to bring any ideas, you can contact Paige, and I'm sure she would add that right to the schedule for Dowdy Park. Thank you.
Nancy?
Okay, the last question is from Bob Mueller, and it is, what do you conceive as the role of art in the town's quality of life?
Mr. Sears, you're up.
Repeat, Nancy, can you repeat that?
What do you conceive as the role of art in the town's quality of life?
Well, I do think we live in the most beautiful town, and the residents of Soundside Road would tell you that the tourists and visitors and other towns love coming to their street and watching the sunset every night. So art is, just like the picture on the screen, is very important. We are thriving with artists. I could name some, but then I would forget one and I'd get yelled at tomorrow. But we have a lot of art. I think I would have loved to seen Saga actually put that theater in the middle of the town, so that we would have had more art. I don't know how you bring more art, Mr. Mueller, but I mean, that's a great question. But me as one person, I think we have a lot of art, and I think it's very important that we keep that local art as well as bringing in more. Thank you.
Mr. Sanders?
That's a great question. And my wife is an artist, so she would certainly love to see more art and more art brought into the town of Nags Head. In fact, she painted one of the banners that hangs at the Barnes Street beach access. And I think the mayor was instrumental in help bringing that to the town. And I love little, projects like that showcase local artists and that bring art to the town. I mean, if anybody has any questions or any suggestions, there is a art and culture committee that my wife serves on. So, they would love to hear, thoughts and inputs and what the citizens think about this and how to bring more art. Every time I walk into the town of Nags Head, I'm in awe of all the art that's on the walls in there. And sometimes I spend more time looking at the art on the walls than I do getting my business done in there. And I think Bob was very instrumental, Bob Mueller, in getting that going. So I think it's a good direction to go. I'd be very open for suggestions, from citizens, how to bring more art into the town. And I think it's a great idea. Thank you, Bob.
Okay. Mr. Fuller, you're last of all the questions.
Thank you.
You're third.
Always a good place to be. Without a doubt, it's a very important thing. Cultural arts, whether it be performing arts, visual arts, on and on and on, is a very important aspect in all of our lives. On a side, I have to say thank you to Bob's wife, Carrie, for giving me a piece of art that I asked to even pay for, and she wouldn't take any money. But she did a commission piece for me that I really love, and personally, and I thank her for that. But Nags Head does have a history of procuring arts. We've done that through a process of where we took surplus funds, where we had revenues over expenditures at the end of the year. We chose to make sure that there was a committee of experts that would review and accept art. We took the politics out of it. We took a position that we didn't want to be in a position of having to take a piece of art from somebody that wasn't of some quality that people would not want. So there is a group of artists, and we strongly support that group of artists, and we can't do enough to support them in what they do. I know Ben was just recently involved at the Glenmuir Gallery with the establishment of the 9/11 monument. I'd like to see more monuments. Ben was involved in the Dowdy Park Archway. Those things are great opportunities that come along once in a lifetime. And I'm glad Nags Head can take advantage of stuff like that. And we need to continue to do it. Thank you.
That will conclude the question and answer segment. To learn more about the candidates' ideas and philosophy, you may visit our online voter guide, Vote 411, at www.vote411.org. Now we will hear the candidates' closing remarks. We will go in reverse order. Bob Sanders is first.
Well, first of all, I want to say I had a really good time tonight. That was very informative, and I'd like to thank the other candidates and the League of Women Voters and all the citizens for their good questions. And as you can see, there are a lot of issues coming up that will affect our town, how we grow, and how we move forward. So we're going to need some strong leadership. We're going to need to continue to work on our focused Nags Head plan to ensure a high level of service and to ensure a healthy environment that our citizens and guests are used to. I feel like our town has built a reputation as a family-friendly beach, and as a result, we have experienced a lot of growth over the years. Presently, Nags Head and the Outer Banks is more popular than ever. We need to ensure that our facilities and services can keep up and meet the demands of our guests and our citizens. We want Nags Head to be a safe and fun family beach with activities and community events, not just for us, but for our guests as well. We need to protect our most important resources, which is our shorelines and our water quality. Our natural environment is important to both the citizens and guests and is the backbone of our community. And I feel like we also need to protect that small town feel while we experience the growth that is inevitable. And that we need to work on, the density, not increasing density at all. And I think, the past 2 years, as I said before, have brought on a new set of problems and circumstances that need to be addressed. And the decisions that are made today will guide our town's future. We need to have an open and transparent government and a candidate that is willing to listen to the citizens, and I feel like I am that candidate. I believe that people should have a voice in their government, that we have a fantastic community, and that our people are informed and that they love our town. So I'd like for everybody to get out on November 2nd and vote. And if you feel so inclined, please support me. Thank you.
Webb Fuller.
First of all, I'd like to thank the League for being here and hosting this. Second of all, I'd like to thank the mayor for being who he is and sitting there and knowing that if I was sitting in his chair, I'd be chomping at the bit to say stuff. I know he is, but he's been very courteous to us, and I appreciate that. Obviously, I'm running as an incumbent. That means, I'm running on my record. I think the record that I have working with the incumbents, Mike and Ben, showed what we're capable of doing. I think Nags Head is a better place for that. My commitment is to make Nags Head, to keep Nags Head. I don't want to be another beach town. I don't want to do things that will change our character from what we all in Nags Head know who we are. And everybody in Nags Head knows who we are. People don't just come to Nags Head to come to the Outer Banks. People come to Nags Head because they want to be part of Nags Head. And that's what I want to make sure we continue to do. Whoever the people choose, you've got great candidates. I appreciate Bob and Mike, worthy people. All of us, I think, are capable of being on the board and doing a really good job in carrying forth the Nags Head tradition. I know Ben shares that. I can't say anything more than I'm running on my actions of the last 4 years, running as an incumbent. But I will say I chose to work here. I chose to live here. I chose to retire here. I chose to raise my children here. My children live in this town or in the greater Nags Head area. And I want to make sure that they have the same experience that I had living here. Thank you so much for this forum tonight. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Michael Sears.
Thanks, Tony. I'd like to thank the league for putting this on, and I'd like to thank Bob and Webb and the mayor for participating in this. Like Bob, it's been a night, a lot of, butterflies and everything else. And it's been very pleasant for all of us to sit around here and talk. Like Webb, I am the incumbent. I am running what we've done and what I've helped participate and help get started. I look to the future, as Bob mentions, and that's how I actually ran before. Being the youngest guy sitting at this Zoom meeting, this platform right here, also being a business owner, also being a property owner and well vested in this community, I too want to keep Nags Head what Nags Head is. I don't want to see us become some of the towns to the north. I am so happy that we don't have a bypass that looks and is lit up like some of the towns to the north. I enjoy sitting on the water, coming back from a restaurant and knowing that when you look across Nags Head, it is a very low lit, very small town feel. And you look to the north and you've got this huge glow in the sky from our fellow township to the north. I want to keep that. I want to keep our skyline. I want to keep our beaches. I want to improve that 60-year-old infrastructure that we have. And I hope that Webb's grandkid and Bob's grandkid and everybody in here, grandkids, can enjoy Nags Head the way that you remembered Nags Head back then. And I look forward, if given the opportunity, to serving the citizens of Nags Head for another 4 years. I do want to thank everybody for the opportunity to serve you the last 4 years. And again, thank you all very much for tonight. Thanks.
Ben Cahoon.
Thank you. I'd like to thank everybody who participated tonight, those who submitted questions, and to Mike and Bob and Webb for participating. Webb was exactly right. I wanted to yield my time to the contested race, and so I kept my mouth shut. But I will tell any citizen, if you want to have a cup of coffee with me, I'll be glad to tackle any of these questions with you anytime and have a discussion. Nags Head has a history of great boards, of what we call high functioning boards. We get a lot done. Nags Head has done a lot of positive, very good things. I think what the voters can tell is that however things go, Nags Head is going to go forward with a high functioning board. My job as mayor is going to be to help that board focus and accomplish its goals and work together to get those things done for our citizens. One thing that I will pledge to take on is I think there are some opportunities for workforce housing that are already built into our Unified Development Ordinance. One of the things that we had said we were going to do when we adopted that ordinance was to do a little outreach and education for what was embodied in there, so that property owners could take advantage of that. But there are some opportunities for mixed business and residential development that's already there. And some of these business owners, I believe, with a little work, could develop housing along with their businesses. That's not a universal opportunity, but again, it just goes back to doing a little more with our outreach to educate the citizens. And so I just want to thank everybody for participating, and say see you in November. Thank you.
This concludes the Town of Nags Head Municipal Candidate Forum. We wish to thank the candidates for their participation, the voters for their attendance, and for their submitted questions. We want to thank the technical team again for setting up and managing the webinar. We will post a video of this forum on our website, www.lwvdarenc.org, as well as on our YouTube page and on Current TV. Vote 411. All contested candidates this evening have participated in the League's online voter guide called Vote 411. We encourage you to look at this one-stop shop website that voters may access on their phone or on their PC. Simply key in your address and you can view candidate information, their philosophy statement, social media links, and their responses, in their own words, to questions we posed and more. Please check it out. Vote 411's live date was October 6th. I will now return the program to Judy Lotus, coordinator.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody. That was so interesting. In closing, just please remember, if you have not registered to vote, can't believe, you may do so during early one-stop voting, which begins this Thursday, October 14, and ends October 30th. There are 2 early voting sites, the Dare County Administration Building in Manteo and the KDH Town Hall in Kill Devil Hills. The hours are the same at both places, Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. And there will be Saturday voting October 30th from 8 a.m. until 3 p.m. You, of course, may also register through the Department of Motor Vehicles if you have a North Carolina driver's license or ID card. And if you wish to vote by mail, any registered North Carolina voter may request an absentee ballot by mail. No excuse is needed to vote by absentee. To request that absentee ballot, that it be sent to you, complete and return the NC absentee ballot request form found on the Dare County Board of Elections website. Or you can call the Dare County Board of Elections and an absentee ballot request form will be sent to you. Now, as we all know, Election Day is Tuesday, November 2nd. And if you plan to vote on Election Day, your polling place is the Nags Head Elementary School in the cafeteria. Please see the Board of Elections website for all these details and more. We encourage you to join us in the League's efforts to empower voters and defend democracy. Thank you again, everyone, for participating this evening. Good night.